Well, welcome to this very, very special episode of our real life podcast together. And today you're going to be getting, I think, a lot, not only out of the podcast, but a lot of marching orders. And for some of you in the United States, a wake-up call. Because what you're going to be hearing about is going on in your own community. You may not be aware of it. The temptation is to think, not in my town are such things taking place, but in reality, they are. And so, listen, today we just have two very, very special people who are on the front lines of fighting the fight. And so I'm going to have them introduce themselves, and I'm going to want you to make sure that you share this with everybody that you know. So, Julianne, let's start with you.
Sure, thanks for having us. My name is Julianne Fleischer, and I'm an attorney with the nonprofit law firm of Advocates for Faith and Freedom. And I have the distinct honor to represent Jessica, who is going to share the second part of her story and her lawsuit. But love Jessica, love that I have the honor of representing her.
That's awesome. And Jessica, tell us, what hot water are you in? Tell us about your experience and what causes you now to have Julianne in this excellent law firm supporting you.
I'm going to blame it all on you, Pastor Jack.
Go ahead. Yes.
I, like many people, found you, and I've been raised a Christian, but stepping into this church, one of the first sermons I heard you preach was on how being a coward is a sin. Yeah. And I have no idea why that day that sermon struck me so hard. And then flash forward 1 or 2 years after that, I'm in this position as a school teacher where I have these transgender directives placed on me, and they immediately convicted me. And I remembered that you taught me that it's a sin to be a coward, and that I was in a position where a lot of teachers are cowering right now. They're putting their pension above their principles, and they're doing whatever it takes to save their salary. And I knew that I was called for more than that.
Wow.
And so I dug in. The Lord told me I'm entering spiritual warfare, and so I got closer to Him than ever before. Yeah. And He called me out to stand firm in the truth and to speak out. And in doing that, in simply telling my district, no, I can't call students by something they're not.
And that's what they wanted you to do. Yes. They wanted you, hey, all of a sudden, Jessica and the entire staff, the administration, start calling kids by their preferred
pronoun, gender, whatever it is now. Whatever they'd like. And it was worse than that. I also learned I would have to withhold that information from their parents. I clarified, are you asking me to lie? They said yes for student safety and privacy. I'm also in the unique position of being a PE teacher overseeing a girls' locker room. So I was told I would need to let anyone identifying as a female in. I said, are you telling me boys in the girls' locker room? They said yes if they're identifying as female. I said no. Wow. So in the very end, I ended up being fired January 2023 because my school district could not accommodate my religious beliefs. So when I told them no over these transgender directives, I spoke from my faith as to why I couldn't follow. So they said, we need to have you come in so we can put you through a religious accommodation meeting. They asked me questions up and down, left and right on my faith, even where I go to church and what I read and how often. Most bizarre experience of my life. But
this
just
is
another
Gestapo-like.
thing. Just another thing, honestly, looking back on it all, that just strengthened my faith and helped me rise up. And at the end of that, they decided we can't accommodate you and you're fired as a teacher.
So here in Southern California, you were a PE teacher. You had been a stellar employee, staff member, no problem. This woke ideology invades the school, as it is everywhere, everybody. And they literally sidestepped completely the First Amendment. And look, I'm not an attorney, but we have one sitting here, but I'm just like drooling thinking, your First Amendment was violated, and then on top of it, I could argue the case that they were telling you to endanger children, because when you put boys and girls together in the locker room or in the showers, that doesn't go well.
Right.
And so it's just absolutely incredible irresponsibility, but they justify it because I think they have an agenda. They've got a plan. And so, Julianne, where did you come in and then spool up to? Where are we with Jessica's defense?
So Jessica came to Advocates with her story, and right away we knew that this is absolutely horrendous what the district is doing. They essentially were creating their own religious test for Jessica to be a teacher, and our founding fathers were very clear from the beginning, there's no religious test to hold a government position, and the district was basically saying, Jessica, you need to follow our religion, our ideology as it relates to these transgender policies, or you're not qualified to be a teacher within our public school system. And so we ended up filing a lawsuit against the district on behalf of Jessica, raised First Amendment concerns, raised Title VII concerns, and we've been in nearly a year-long legal battle with the district, fighting out these issues, and we actually just reached a settlement with the district paying out $360,000 to Jessica as a result of their wrongdoing. And we can talk about what does a settlement look like? Does that mean we're quitting? Are we giving up? But absolutely not. This is an incredible amount of money where it's basically showing that the district had to financially pay for their wrongdoing. And, the entire time as we've been going through this lawsuit, the district has told us, we did what we did because we were afraid of lawsuits from transgender students. We did what we did to Jessica because we were fearful of what could happen to us as a result of transgender students feeling discriminated against. And the Constitution is clear. Religious rights, religious liberty, it's the Constitution, it's the supreme law of the land. And so Jessica's religious rights are not second class to any other right. Her religious freedoms are one of the most sacred things that we have within this country. And so we've fought hard and long in this last year, and the district wouldn't have settled if they thought they hadn't done anything wrong. Right. And that's the biggest statement that this settlement shows, is that the district knows that they did wrong, and they were willing to say, okay, we're going to pay out money so that we can put this lawsuit to the aside. And what the district probably doesn't know, or maybe doesn't realize, but this is going to be a catalyst for other teachers. Jessica has taken a stand and has stepped out boldly in faith, and I have no doubt that the Lord's going to use just her story and this lawsuit to inspire and to encourage other teachers to take a stand.
In fact, to that point, I want to insert this. Where can people follow the rest of this as this plays out? Give us some sort of link or whatever where they can watch the progression of this, because as we well know, this is going to spread. Thank God this is some good news that's going to spread, but where can they follow this? Almost like a weather report. How can they keep up with it?
So, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. Okay. So really birthing out of this settlement, my prayer through this whole past year hasn't been for a certain monetary amount. Maybe for a second I prayed, let's take this all the way to Supreme Court, but that's before I knew, what all it entailed being in a lawsuit, and the fact that, I sued my school district, not the state of California or the Department of Ed. Yeah. So I learned a lot, and that kind of changed things, but I kept asking the Lord, just send a message. The teachers across this nation need a message, need a really strong message to just give them that boost of confidence that they too can stand firm in the truth and firm in their faith. So however you end this, Lord, send a message. And we were just talking earlier how amazing the Lord is in the way he does that with even just the number 360. The second I said yes to that, I felt like the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said 360 is symbolic of a complete turnaround, a full circle.
That's right.
And there's just so much to be said about that. But birthing out of this, we're actually launching a program called Teachers Don't Lie. And we're going to have a landing page for teachers to come to, and we're going to provide them all the support that they need to know their rights, to have defense ready to go, if it's their turn to take a stand, which there are many teachers that message me already and say, I'm right there. So that's what's being launched out of this, and we have no idea what the Lord will do, but we have big faith about it. But we just want to be there and encourage, all the teachers watching across the nation that this is the right thing to do, and we never go wrong when we stand for what's right.
There you go. Never are we wrong when we stand upon biblical truth. And even if we were to lose in public opinion or in the courtroom,
Right.
this is the battlefield of man. God wins the war. And in the end, are you willing to lose the short-term fight to win the inevitable war in the end? And that's what happens when you stand for truth. And you guys are doing that. So I have a bunch of scriptures that is just jumping around my head, and I'm going to paraphrase them for time's sake. But I want to preface it with this. We advocates, Julianne, you're not out to generate lawsuits and go after people and beat people up. Those who identify in the LGBTQ gender issue stuff, they are U.S. citizens. They have their constitutional rights. We're not denying them of that. They're Americans. We're not saying you don't have any rights. They have protections that have been in place for literally decades, if not a century or so, in the public school system. It's just of recent times where this has become such a social construct, a social argument to undermine the system. We are not bashing those who are honestly, truly struggling with identity and things like that, because some of it is that they were terribly abused or exposed to pornography at an early age. They're all messed up in their heart and in their minds. We're not denying that. What we're denying is that the school system and in California, and I might add all 50 states, are so handling it wrong that they're throwing, as it were, truth out like the baby in the bathwater. Out the whole thing goes because we're terrified of being sued by some kid or some kid's parents. But notice that everything that's being said is being said in the confines of fear. The school district was fearful of being sued. When we don't take a stand, we're cowards because of fear. It's just everywhere. And so what comes to my mind is that in 2 Corinthians 10:6, this is in the New Testament. 2 Corinthians 10:6 says, when we're obedient to Christ, we will thereby punish all disobedience, and when that's accomplished, our obedience to him will be spoken of. That's an amazing statement. Isaiah 10:1 says, woe unto those who write misfortune and pass unjust laws. That's in Isaiah 10. And then in Jeremiah 29:7, the Bible says that wherever you live, you should stand up for that community's protection and safety and welfare so that you and the community might live a peaceable life. This is remarkable. You're living it out. In Matthew 5, Jesus said, let your light so shine before men that when they see your good works, they'll glorify your Father which is in heaven. You guys are doing this. So, Jessica, you would not lie. They really, frankly, bullied you. I'm a real fan of using their talk when you're talking with them. You bullied me, right? You tried to coerce me, all of these things. And when you wouldn't play their game, they actually, this is a big deal in California. Pretty much impossible to fire a teacher.
Yeah. Tenured, too.
Tenured. And they fired you. Yeah. So, Julianne, speak to how many violations are we possibly looking at?
There's countless violations, and it does go back to the school district had a duty to accommodate Jessica's religious beliefs. There's no question about that. And Jessica presented them several ideas, several different accommodations that would have allowed her to continue to do her job and do her job well, continue to allow students. It's important to note there actually weren't any transgender students in her classroom. No student had ever asked her to refer to them by different pronouns. These were a lot of hypothetical situations.
So these are premeditated hypotheticals in advance of possibly being sued about something that might come up someday.
Yes, very hypothetical. But what isn't hypothetical are Jessica's religious beliefs. And something that I love to emphasize about Jessica and her story is nothing about her had changed. She maintained the same convictions and religious beliefs from the time that she accepted the Lord as a young girl, and got a job with the school district and remained true to her biblical convictions. And so nothing about Jessica had changed except the district's interest in presenting their own ideology and bullying Jessica to bow down to their ideology and to their religious test in order to be a public school teacher. And so there were a lot of issues with what they did, and there were a lot of accommodations that could be done. We're hearing now about school districts accommodating teachers' religious beliefs, of being able to opt out of different LGBTQ plus trainings and different things of that nature. And so school districts are realizing, okay, we need to, we recognize religious beliefs. We need to be able to, we can't, just be firing teachers. What's going to end up happening is we're going to lose a lot of really great teachers who care about students, who have a passion and a calling to teach our young generation. And these school districts across the United States are really doing a disservice to our students by bullying and firing great teachers that have a heart for students. And Jessica has a heart for all students. It didn't matter if they were transgender or not.
Let me play bad guy for a second. Well, how do you answer this? Jessica had it coming. She had been written up so many times. The district was very displeased with her performance as a teacher. This was inevitable that she was going to be released anyway. She was just not qualified.
She was probably overqualified for her position. She had so many incredible reviews from former principals of different schools that she had worked at in the district. She had worked at the middle school within the district, the high school. She had attended the high school in this district as a high school student.
Wow.
And so
met my husband there. Did Bible study there.
Yeah. Incredible reputation within the school district. It was only this event that led to her firing. There were no other disciplinary actions. It was not because she was, failing her students. Her students adored her, loved her, and this was a calling that the Lord put on her life. She had a heart to teach students, and that's what she showed up every day to do.
Absolutely amazing. So, Julianne, I want to ask you a question, and I want to say this is hypothetical, but I fear that it's not. But let's, for the sake of this podcast, let's pretend for a moment. With what's going on and with what's trending in our nation, and certainly all kinds of areas, but in this area, do you think, or are you allowed to say, that there seems to be a organized attack that is directed against our constitutional rights, specifically the First Amendment? And Jessica just got in the way. Guido, so to speak, down at the school district or school board, she's just collateral damage. Our goal is to we don't believe in the Constitution, we don't believe in the First Amendment, because it feels like that's what's going on. I look around in other areas of what's happening, and I don't see the Constitution being obeyed. And the Constitution is like the Bible. You have to choose to obey it. You can disobey it if you want. Are you seeing this as well in what you do? That's what the Constitution says, but we interpret it this way, or we don't think it applies here. How can the Constitution not apply to an American citizen? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, our law firm exists specifically to help people like Jessica, because we're seeing countless stories or instances where people of faith are going to work, trying to do their job, but yet they're being forced to leave their beliefs and their convictions at it's called the schoolhouse gate, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it's not just within the education system. It's in all different fields where people are being forced to separate their convictions, their biblical values, and their work life. And that's the Constitution exists so that doesn't have to happen. The Founding Fathers understood and recognized our rights as American citizens to practice our religious beliefs within the public sphere. That doesn't have to be something that we do in the private of our homes. We're called to... Biblically, we're called to engage the culture with our biblical values, but that's why the Constitution, that's why the First Amendment exists, and quite frankly, that's why our firm exists, is to be able to help individuals and say, there are rights, and we're here to legally protect you and help defend you should this attack continue to grow against American citizens' rights. And we are unfortunately seeing that across the United States. We have cases all across the United States, different employment cases, churches as well, that are being targeted because of their religious convictions and beliefs.
Oh yeah, last Sunday at church I had a mother and a daughter come up to me. Both of them are LA County employees for the Sheriff's Department. And both of them are being basically pushed out. And they both have stellar records, but they're being pushed out because of their religious and then they went from that to their religious convictions. I'm curious, Julianne, you or the attorneys that you're in association with, how many Muslims or Jews are you supporting in cases where they have stood up for their religious freedoms, similar to what's happening?
I would say overwhelmingly the most of our clients are evangelical Christians that are coming to us.
Why do you think that's the case?
I think it's, quite frankly, because it's the religious values that an evangelical Christian holds. They're the ones that are showcasing their beliefs, and it's their beliefs that the culture, the world hates and despises.
Yeah. I obviously set you up for that answer. We didn't rehearse this in advance, but I knew how you would answer this. It's the Christian that stands.
Yeah.
And when you don't stand for something, then you are actually in agreement. A lot of people don't like to hear that, but if you don't take a stand, then you are in agreement. If you're silent, then you are actually endorsing. And so in this situation, I would imagine that Islam teaches against boys and girls being in the shower together at public school or bathroom or whatever it might be. I'm assuming. I would think that Jews who read the first 5 books of Moses, that they would say, well, that's wrong. Well, why are the Christians the only ones speaking up? Is because it's one of our mottos here that at Real Life, because of Real Life, we believe it's time to live out what we believe in. It's time for real life. This is faith in action. Right. And you're doing that. And whenever you put faith into action, it's going to go up against an opposing worldview. So, Julianne, you rightfully mentioned a Judeo-Christian worldview of our founding fathers. But those that are fighting against Jessica, they don't even recognize, you might as well be from Mars, because a lot of these leaders were never even instructed in their upbringing. They weren't taught American history. They may not have ever read the Constitution. So what I'm saying is every pastor, whatever your religion is, for that matter, you can be an atheist. Don't you want the right and the freedom to practice your atheism? Look, I'm not for atheists, but I'm for your right to practice your atheism. That's this country. And our founders understood that perfectly. So what's next in this battle? I think I heard you say in the settlement, you're not going to quit or give up. And by the way, the settlement is an admission of guilt. Number 2, the monetary amount is irrelevant. If they would have settled for $1 or $100 million, it's irrelevant. They settled. And so it's an admission of guilt on their part. So, Julianne, what are you going to do with that?
Well, so as Jessica mentioned, we are starting this campaign of Teachers Don't Lie, and we want it to be a resource, a program where teachers, parents, even students can go and see what are my rights, what am I able to do, and if for some reason a teacher finds himself in a similar position as Jessica, we want them to know that there are groups, our organization who is willing to step in and fight the battle alongside them. I think if anything, for a lot of teachers, it can be daunting because you have this entire school district, you have this entire system that you're up against. Teachers union is a whole separate issue in and of itself. But we want teachers to know that you can step up in courage and in faith and know that you don't have to do it alone. Our law firm is pro bono, which means our clients don't pay us a single penny because we believe in the principles and we believe in the Constitution. That's really why we exist. And so we want to be a law firm, an organization that says we will come and step into this battle alongside you and provide those resources.
Well, I can tell our viewers right now that Advocates for Faith and Freedom, what she just said, they actually do what she just said. I've had the high honor of working with them for many, many years. How can people get a hold of you guys? What's your link? And
Sure. So our website is for Advocates for Faith and Freedom, and it's faith-freedom.com. They can go and look at actually all of the cases that we have going on, and they can, the biggest way people always ask, how can we support? Obviously, prayer.
Sure.
We're in legal battles every day, but it's a spiritual battle as well. And so praying over our organization, over our clients, and that the Lord's favor would be, upon our organization and upon our clients. And then also just part of that is financial support.
Absolutely.
Our clients don't pay us, but we rely on people who believe in the mission and the cause, who may not be able to do the legal work, but can financially support our organization. That's what enables us to continue to do what we do.
Absolutely. So Jessica, you poor thing, you come walking into this church, innocent as a little lamb during COVID. You hear God speaking to you. Of course, our God does not move in the realm of coincidence. I love the fact that in the Hebrew Bible, the word coincidence is not even, there's no Hebrew word for coincidence, because that's to say that there's accidents.
Right.
The God of the Bible, there are no accidents. And so you came, strolling on in for just a nice, simple Sunday morning worship service, and God spoke to your heart. And the beautiful thing, Jessica, that transmits to everybody is that you may have been trembling, but you heard truth. And this is so good for all of us to remember and to know. The truth got inside of you, and you had to choose to either obey or disobey. God would have loved you either way.
Right.
He would have loved you either way. It had nothing to do with your position with God, but you chose to obey Him. And you have left your protection with Him. You have left your battle with Him, and He's honored your position.
Absolutely.
And now He's advancing you. And what's cool about what's going on is that you can pick up the Bible. A lot of people can't. Jessica Tapia can pick up the Bible and read it and say, well, I know what that feels like. Wow, that's kind of what's going on with me.
Every day.
Isn't it amazing how when you obey the Scriptures come alive? And if you don't obey the Scriptures, they're dead to you.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
It's something I just want to scream to the world is, even if you see yourself right now walking into some sort of suffering or persecution, go forth with Him, and what you will find on the other side of walking in faith, there aren't even words for the different ways I've gotten to see the Lord and get closer to Him and His protection and provision and blessings. I have to write a book. It's so much.
Yeah.
But it just makes me want to tell everyone, go forth in faith, even if it's into persecution, because this thing is going to come alive like never before for you, and you're going to be more than okay.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. Everything that you're doing, maybe you're doing this, you should journal everything that's going on. Programs like this, other programs that you're on, other news broadcasts that you're on. Save these moments, save them, because you ought to go back and review them and actually write a book. I think that's a great idea, because you represent tens of thousands of teachers that have been beaten down by school boards or districts or their state education system, the union, which is nothing but a brute squad. People want to hear. They need to hear. I was perfect textbook moment was just about a month ago. I was speaking in a very, very red state, conservative governor, conservative state assembly, conservative state senators, conservative, super conservative state. And I had made mention about what's going on in your school districts. And they listen, I was actually told by these beautiful church people, that's not happening here. And I said, no, I'm sure it is. Now, I didn't know if it was, but in our experience, High probability. No, not here. We are people of the earth. We're in the Bible Belt. Yeah, I think you ought to take a peek. Go down to your public library, take a stroll, and start sitting in on some of these meetings. Go to meetings. Find out what's happening at the PTA and school board meetings. Lo and behold, a couple of moms went to the local library and they found exactly what we're talking about right now. And friends, listen, I want you to go to your local library where you're at and find out what's going on. Find out what's going on in your school board, because the temptation is it's not happening here. It is happening where you're at. Here's what's different about California. In California, you are either a Christian or you're not. It used to be you could hide out because it just blended. The lines were skewed. And ever since this cultural war has exploded with biblical things under attack, marriage under attack, abortion, identity, attacking identity, by that I mean attacking God's word on He made us male and female. Mm-hmm. California, everybody makes fun of California. I mean, you can go ahead and make fun of it, but it's going to be 75 degrees today, perfect. But the point is this, that Californian believers are fighting for the truth. And what's scary is in other states, they're comfortable and they've settled in. Yep. And I just want to warn all of you lovingly, find out what's going on, because we live in a darkening world, but wherever we go, we should be instruments and bearers of light. And so, Julianne, what can you share about what's ahead? What do you think, without showing your cards, what's ahead for Jessica? What course of action are you guys plotting?
Yeah, so Jessica has been a warrior, and she's been one of the first teachers that I know of to really take a bold stand. And so we really want to use her story. I know Jessica wants to use her story to inspire and encourage teachers. And even just a note about the school boards. Parents need to know what their school boards are doing. And, it's something as simple as showing up to a school board meeting, talking during open comments, telling your school board what you want for your children, advocating for your children. And so I think we're going to see, and we are already seeing, parents stepping up, teachers stepping up, and we really want Jessica's story to spearhead, be that beacon of, okay, I can do it too. Mm-hmm. Here's Jessica, a mom, a wife, a teacher who said, I'm going to be obedient to the Lord. And so, I think going forward, we're going to continue to see an attack on our religious rights, but I think we're also going to continue to see bold people like Jessica continue to step into the arena and fight for not only their religious rights and their beliefs, but also for their children, because children are essentially the losing side in this battle when we don't stand up, when we don't speak up.
Really good.
And so we want to see parents, step into this battle. We want to see teachers who are willing to say, no, you cannot, treat my students that way, or parents have parental rights. You cannot take my right, to direct the upbringing of my child. And so I really believe that we're going to continue to see, people of faith take a stand, and that's what we hope with this campaign of, teachers don't lie. They don't need to lie to students. They don't need to lie to parents, and they most certainly don't need to lie to themselves about their convictions and their religious beliefs. And so being able to, send that message and hopefully inspire, I don't like using the word inspire, but really spearheading and allowing, people to know you have the support. You don't have to do this.
Activate.
Yes. You don't have to do this. It's not a lone battle. You're not alone in this. There are so many people, courageous people that want to push back about this with this woke ideology that we're seeing infiltrate all aspects of our life.
Yeah, what's sad is that, and I'm going to put grandparents in there too because they have a voice also. When you have a school board meeting, there's a certain amount of time. City council meeting, school board meeting. You've got maybe 1 minute. I don't know if it's 3 minutes, but you can go to the podium, and somebody might be saying, "Oh, you ladies are Deborahs from the Bible." I'm not like that. But if you think about it, number one, for the circus that's taking place in your town, you're actually paying for it in your taxes. you're not to be slaves of what they want to implement. They actually work for the taxpayer.
Right.
This is the way our government was set up. We are a constitutional republic. But in that, how long does it take to go to the podium and say something as simple as this, which, by the way, is the language they understand, is I'm making this up right now. I hold you responsible for the outcome of this topic, of how this turns out. You don't need to say anything more than that. Because they believe that they can conduct themselves and initiate their own social experiment on people. Just know this. It was well said a moment ago. Your kids are the petri dish in which this test is going on. The experiment's taking place, and your child is the one that will pay the price no matter what. So it's remarkable. Jessica, what are we missing in this interview? What needs to be said?
Oh, there's so much. I was thinking a little bit ago when you said he would have loved me either way. Mm-hmm. A few months after being fired, I was quickly seeing just the other side of walking out in faith, and I was just speechless. Wow, Lord. And I actually asked him, I said, what would life look like right now if I hadn't obeyed you and I had just saved my salary? And he actually, I really felt, spoke back to me, and he said, I still would have loved you. I just couldn't have used you the way I am right now. And I was like, wow.
That's a fact.
Wow. So obedience has just come to light for me, and that's just my number one goal in life now is to obey. Yes, to
Look
obey.
Look at her face, you guys. Look at her face. She's talking about obedience and she's lighting up. That's exactly how it works.
No, truly. I'm like, I question myself now. You know, I've always called myself a Christian, but have I ever actually lived out my faith? Now that I actually have, and I've lived it, and I've seen the other side, and I'm living it currently, I'm like, I don't know that I actually have lived it out prior to this, and I'm 31, and that makes me sad because I'm like, all those years, wasted. And I was more of what it was, is I was more of a rule follower, good girl, just quiet, shy, stay in line. So I'm actually the least likely person to do what I did. But I knew a huge decision was on the line, and I actually felt very alone because I didn't know anyone else who had stood up to the beast like this, and it was a very confusing time for me. I actually had Christians that advised me to obey my boss and do whatever they were asking me to do. And it was very confusing. It was spiritual warfare like never before, but it forced me to get alone with the Lord. And that's when everything became clear.
So that's a very good point that you just brought up. There's going to be Christians in your life that will say, I'm paraphrasing now, don't ruffle any feathers. Take the easy way out, just obey what they're telling you to do. But the conviction was, and you guys have this so well documented in your case, is, Jessica, we are your authority. We are who you work for. We want you to lie. The moment you heard that, the Holy Spirit set off bells and whistles. And what's beautiful about your response was, even to your Christian friends who basically said, don't muddy up the waters. I have to obey God rather than man.
Yes.
And that's what it came to. And you taking that step, you went light years ahead in spiritual experience and growth, while the others are still back at the finish line. They're playing it safe. They're taking their witness and they're burying it under the ground, waiting. Where you are out there, and your story is inspirational. And I love the fact that Advocates for Faith and Freedom, Julianne and your team, come alongside people like us. And I remember some years ago, we were gathering signatures for the state of not for the state of California, to fight the state of California against the co-ed bathroom. And it was a Saturday, I'll never forget it. I studied in advance for Sunday, got it all done, went down to our local Target grocery store with our team, and we're gathering signatures. And I was saying to people, sign the petition to stop co-ed bathrooms, or whatever it was, or AB something, or SB something, and nobody was signing it. And then I said, hey, please help us stop boys using girls' showers at the same time in the state of California. And women went, oh, that's gross. Men stopped. All of a sudden, men started to sign the petition because they knew, wait a minute. It was how it was framed. If you just say, hey, help stop this, it's like, what? When you say, help us stop boys being in girls' showers with them at the same time. What? And what happened was there were those who must not have liked that, went into that Target store, told the manager came out and told us to get out of the parking lot, to leave. And I immediately called Advocates for Faith and Freedom on my cell phone, and I got a hold of the principal attorney, and I said, hey, we're being told this by the store. Where are you? I'm in the parking lot. That's public property. Hold your ground. And I just said, listen, I got my attorney on the phone right now, and we have the constitutional right to hold our ground. And he goes, I'm going to go call our attorney. The guy goes in. Did he call the attorney or not? I don't know. He never came out. We stood, God honored, God protected. But I wouldn't have had the confidence without that phone call. But I knew we were doing the right thing. And so people will listen, you want to do the right thing. Always do the right thing. And so we got to wrap this up. When will this Teachers Don't Lie website or app or whatever it is, when are you going to get that out there?
So the plan actually is by the time this airs, it should be live. So people can go to our website, Advocates website, so faith-freedom.com, and we'll have a landing page that is very clearly marked Teachers Don't Lie, where it's going to have these different resources, have our contact information, have Jessica's story on there. So by the time this is launched, people should be able to access that.
Is awesome.
I have to throw in
our
last podcast together.
Yes, please do.
Yes, you and I, shortly after I was fired.
It's been a while.
It's been over a year. Over a year. February of last year, we did a podcast together. I shared kind of the details of my story, and I texted Julianne yesterday, and I was like, Pastor Jack prophesied this program we're starting, and I sent her the 1-minute clip of you literally saying Jessica, I think you need to start an alliance for teachers, a national reporting center where teachers can come who are in.
That must have been the Lord, because I have no recollection. And
I'll send you the clip.
Wow. So that's a good idea. Maybe watching this, you would just click in the link provided of our initial interview together when she was being harassed and then eventually fired. This will kind of put things in perspective for you. This would be a great thing, I think, for you to show to your teachers group or maybe a church gathering for your community impact group that you might have at church. And if you don't remember the hyphen or the slash, just Google this, Advocates for Faith and Freedom. That'd be so simple. Mm-hmm. It's going to take you to everything that you need to know. And we're just honored. We're just thrilled. Listen, these two women love God. They understand what God gave us as a nation. Okay, listen, this is not political. Forget politics. I'm talking about God putting you in a country with particular laws. If you live in Germany, God put you in Germany for a reason. You have certain laws there. But if you're born in the United States, you have been gifted a constitutional republic. Those freedoms must be exercised like a muscle. If you don't exercise that muscle, it will go limp, it will become very weak. America right now is very weak because we have not been exercising our First Amendment rights. Right. And so what we need to do, and they're doing it, they are exercising the freedoms that have been given to us. You know what that's called, everybody? It's called stewardship. And when you're faithful in little, God will make you faithful in more. So listen, as always, we believe it's time for us to live out what we believe in. It's time for real life. They're living out the real life Christian experience because they know in whom they believe. They trust in the Lord Jesus Christ. And for those of you who don't know, He's the one who died on the cross for your sins. He's the one that rose again from the dead. Jesus left us not only the Word of God and all the promises of Scripture, but He left us an empty tomb. There's life after death, and his name is Jesus, and he forgives sins. And so listen, until next time, God bless you guys. Pray for these two and take a stand, and you'll see that you won't be standing alone. God will be with you. you.